Hey guys, your humble host, or Kayla if you prefer. So this is my second take of this video due to it not capturing the screen properly. So I'm going to put a trigger warning for those of you who have experienced miscarriages, for those of you who have experienced one in the past or are currently going through one. I do advise that you click off of this video as this is going to be very triggering for you. I'm not kidding. I read through this article and I got really mad. Anyway, I'm going to give it a second and then I'm going to start reading. Everybody clicked off that wants to? Okay, so this comes from www.marketwatch.com. WalGreens pharmacist refuses to service Arizona woman with unviable pregnancy. After being told a miscarriage was inevitable, her doctor gave her a prescription for the drug misoprostol. So, what that means was her pregnancy was no longer growing, that the baby fetus inside of her had unfortunately passed away and lost its heartbeat. An Arizona mom was humiliated by a WalGreens pharmacist who refused to fill her prescription for an abortion drug because it went against his ethical beliefs. Nicole Ortega tragedy unfolded at her 10-week checkup when she learned her unborn child no longer had a heartbeat. And for those of you who are still here and have experienced a miscarriage, I'm sorry, that's really traumatic. I had a very, very, very early one. So it wasn't as traumatic for me, but it was still very much depressing and I was under a lot of stress. So to have this happen to you at a later time, hers was 10 weeks, and at that point, at the 4-week markers when the heartbeat develops and you have digits, brain, and things like that, so she had an actual child inside of her, and it's not easy for any woman to lose a developing child. Depression sits in, insecurity, sometimes self-loathing, because it's like, well, I'm obviously not qualified to do this sort of thing, and this scares a lot of people from trying again. So let's continue. Knowing a miscarriage was inevitable, she opted to take the medication misoprostol instead of undergoing a procedure known as a dilation and cartilage to help her body expel the dead fetus. So there are two ways to get rid of miscarriage. You can either have an operation done where they go in and clean everything out, or you can take a medication to help your body do it naturally. Some women opt to just have their bodies do it naturally all on their own. Not every woman is able to have that process naturally by themselves, so a lot of them need extra help. Also, if the dead fetus baby is not cleaned out after a certain amount of time, infection does set in and can make the woman very, very sick. So, I didn't want to need those pills, Ortega 35 told AZ Central. This is not how I wanted my pregnancy to go, but this is my situation. But when she went to her local WalGreens Friday with her 7-year-old son in tow, the pharmacist behind the counter denied her the drug. So she also had a child with her and expected it to be a quiet thing, something that she can take without having to explain to her son, or rather give a full explanation with her son there, as you'll see here in a minute in the article. His mind was pretty much made up, Ortega said. I tried to explain to him I have to take this medication because it's an undeveloping fetus inside of me, and he still refused, and they're silent and looking at me. And something else I will point out too, because I know that there's a lot of medical education that goes into just being a pharmacist. The trade school I went to had one of these trades, pharmacist, CNA. There's a lot they have to study. So I point that out because instead of this guy being a dick, he should have went back on his medical teachings and studies to realize, oh, well, her body needs to get this stuff cleaned out. The baby's no longer alive. It's no longer going to grow. So yeah. The grieving mom left the store in tears and recounted her experience in a Facebook post Friday that's since gone viral. I stood at the mercy of this pharmacist explaining my situation in front of my 7-year-old son. So that was traumatic. This child expecting a sibling on the way, I'm pretty sure he knew about his mom's pregnancy at that point, and to have to fully listen to your mom while being in tears trying to get a medication. Poor kid. Poor mom. And 5 customers standing behind only to be denied because of his ethical beliefs. Ortega wrote, I get it, we all have our beliefs, but what he failed to understand is that this isn't the situation I had hoped for. This is something that I didn't want. I know I rearranged the words there a little bit. So, as I said before, he should have went back to his medical teachings and realized she now had something that can turn infectious. The child had unfortunately passed away. The heartbeat was no longer there. It was no longer alive. And when the woman's body is not cleaned out like that, infection can set in. Ortega said the pharmacist transferred her medication to a store across town. She picked it up there without problem Saturday, and then filed a complaint with the Arizona Board of Pharmacy. I left WalGreens in tears, ashamed, and feeling humiliated by a man who knows nothing of my struggles, but feels it is his right to deny medication prescribed to me by my doctor, she said on Facebook. How is this okay? I can't believe the one who has gone through this. And here's the kicker. WalGreens said the pharmacist's actions weren't exactly wrong, according to WTSP 10 News. So they have a law in Arizona that does state the pharmacist can deny patients medication if it goes against their their ethical beliefs, religious beliefs. So, as I said in this case, I'm all for religious freedom, but each case is different. Now, to bring up the Christian Baker from Colorado Springs again, because if you read up on that case, there is something that you will take note of. The judge was very careful with how he worded his ruling as not to set a precedent. Now, I know that had to do with gay marriage, but he was careful not to set a precedent across the board in general when it comes to people denying each other service when it comes to their religious beliefs. In this case, I don't care what law this guy was protected by, this was total and utter crap. She was not aborting a live child. The child had already passed. She was going through enough as it is. This is what pisses me off about the religious community, or those who call themselves quote-unquote Christians. A lot of them will go and pull the shit. No, I know this is not everyone, including myself. We actually take the time to look at things, those of us who understand that science is involved, and it's just not straight yes or no, because even with abortion, and disagree with me, agree with me, there are gray areas. I even got into a debate with this by the name of someone, Danny Dingo, here on YouTube, and we brought in the development or whatnot, so I have taken the time to read and actually study this and debate about this topic a little bit. There are gray areas when it comes to abortion. But with this woman, she was not aborting a live child. She had to get her body cleaned out before she became very sick. And she didn't want to traumatize herself even further by going through the procedure, but wanted her body to do it naturally, and she needed some help. To respect the sincerely held beliefs of our pharmacists while at the same time meeting the needs of our patients, our policy allows pharmacists to step away from filling a prescription for which they have a moral objection, its company said in a statement. At the same time, they are also required to refer the prescription to another pharmacist or manager on duty to meet the patient's needs in a timely manner. We are looking into this manner to ensure that our patients' needs are handled properly. The pharmacy giant said it reached out to Ortega to apologize for how the situation was handled. So as I said, this was completely messed up and unnecessary. Not only was the mother traumatized enough as it is from her loss, but then she had her child standing there. She had to explain her situation in front of her 7-year-old son, which probably didn't understand, but saw that his mother was crying at the counter. And you had 5 customers there who, I guess, stood there and didn't say anything. That was awesome. So, I do apologize that this was not a fun video for people to watch, but I found this article and wanted to give my 2 cents. As I said before, having a miscarriage is not a fun thing. It's very depressing, it's very traumatic. And the later in the term or the later in the pregnancy that it happens, the more traumatized the woman is, the more depressed the woman gets. And just from my own experience with my very early one, because I was coming off the depot and my body had not learned how to make its normal levels of progesterone at that time, so I lost it early on and had to take supplements to get my progesterone levels back to where they needed to be and to get my body making its own proper levels again. It was so depressing. I didn't want to do anything. I went home and went to sleep because I didn't want to function. I couldn't function. I went to bed. That was all I did. So I can't even begin to wrap my head to have it at a later time when there's something in there, when there's a potential child in there, a life in there that has a heartbeat, is developing digits of brain, and to have that potential human just to suddenly pass, I can't even begin to wrap my brain around the trauma around that. So this is this is just stuff that's kind of hard to read, but at the same time needs to be addressed. I understand people have their beliefs. I got mine. I'm not scared to share them in a respectful manner, but at the same time, I understand stuff happens. Some stuff you just can't do anything about, and the way to go about it is not always preferred, but you know, sometimes that's the way it needs to be handled. So, but yeah, in my opinion, I think the pharmacist needs to be fired because there was no sympathy, there was just cold, there was judgment, you know, not okay. Not okay. The mother was already grieving. I'm sure you traumatized the child in some sort of way because he had to sit there and watch his mom cry in front of God and everybody, explaining, no, the baby's no longer alive. Just please give me my medicine and let me go about my way. People are freaking dicks. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next one. For those of you who have gone through this sort of thing, I'm sorry. It's not easy. I've had personal people go through it that I know at much later times in the pregnancy. So, but anyway, I'm gonna end it here.